Well, 3-1 on the night, 5-1 on aggregate. Manchester City then will face Arsenal in the Carabao Cup Finals. Welcome in, watching that for us as well, Frank Leboeuf and Jurgen Klinsmann.
It's weird this, because comfortably City into the final, and hopefully the final's better than the two semi-finals. The two semi-finals weren't really much of a contest. Yesterday was a bit of a bore. OK, it was tight, but it wasn't a great game. This is a difficult one because I don't know what side of the fence I want to sit on here, whether City switched off in the second half or Newcastle played really well in the second half, because they did make changes, but they were chasing the game. And they could have had, I'm not, and City could have had a couple more as well, but I'm not lying here if I said Newcastle could have had 4 or 5 easy. Vissa had 2 when he came on at half-time. The first one he shanked very early in the second half. There was a chance in the first half before you mentioned it. There was 2 chances in the first half that were brilliant chances to make the game 2-1. So it was a strange one. City will be happy. Newcastle clearly will not. They're the holders of this competition, or were. But Newcastle created a lot of chances because that's what City do. They give you that opportunity, but ultimately they've won the game. And I think you might say they switched off a little bit, brought some youngsters on, and Newcastle were throwing darts at a ball to try and get back in the game.
When we were watching this game, even at 2-0, Craig said, Newcastle aren't out of this just yet. The third goal, I think, killed it as effectively as a contest. But that's just who Manchester City have been of late. That even with a 2-goal lead on the night, 4-goal aggregate, they will still give you chances. And that's what they did. Newcastle let themselves down and they got those chances, but weren't able to convert. So often we've said it's Donnarumma who's been Manchester City's saviour. This time it was Trafford, particularly in the first half, and poor finishing, as I mentioned, from Newcastle. From a Newcastle perspective, and I mentioned during the highlight, I was really disappointed with how easily Manchester City were able to carve open opportunities, just kind of run through Newcastle's midfield. A couple of big omissions in Guimarães and Joe Linton. That aside, it was just way too easy for a top-level side to be carved open. We dominated in midfield as Newcastle were on the night, and that for me was the most disappointing aspect of this.
Over both legs, really. Jurgen, it's all about you take your chances, you win the game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, already the fact that they play 2 legs in the Carabao Cup for me is wrong, because all the amount of games they have in England, they should have clear knockout games, just 1 game only. But the fact that they go there, Newcastle, and they have actually so many opportunities, as Greg said.
What do you say if you're Eddie Howe at half-time, 5-0 down on aggregate? What is there to say to the players?
Go home.
Yes. Frank said that many a time at the theatre. That's what he hears every night on his show.
Yeah, obviously, you tell them, listen, even if you're down now 5 goals, I mean, you created so many chances. You could easily score 2, 3, 4. Because maybe they lose a bit concentration as well, Man City. And so you tell your players, hey, come on, we got to get out here with the heads up, and we cannot just, give away, go so easily. So you try to kind of motivate them and sharpen them up a little bit. But obviously, as well as a manager that this thing is done. So best thing would be, come on, let's go to the pub instead of playing the second half.
We've been discussing Manchester City and their frailties of late, Jurgen. And obviously Pep Guardiola has been there a long time and been very successful. But you just feel now there isn't quite the same spark that we've seen of Manchester City teams in the past. How much is that down to the personnel? And how much is that down to them Pep not being able to get the most out of them?
Well, I think, you go through those periods every year. I mean, even in the years where you're up 5 points in the league table and everything goes well in the Champions League and so forth. But there are always these periods where the energy is maybe a bit lower than usual, than it should be. But you have to kind of pick those periods wisely, I would say, if you can. Because now in the end of January, beginning of February, that's the perfect time, to kind of give things a little bit away. Like today, they gave a lot of chances to Newcastle. They could have scored a couple of goals. So you might want to take those moments right now. But once crunch time comes on in March and April, when the Champions League matters really with the knockout phase, and obviously the Premier League will go into the final run. That's when you want to be turned on. And I think, Pep Guardiola went through those periods so many times in his manager career that he knows that maybe it's not the worst thing right now to have a little bit of a low energy moment. But then hopefully in a couple of weeks from now, we see a different phase of Man City.
They've won the Champions League once with a much better defence. Much better. And they didn't win it on 3 or 4 occasions when they were the favourites with a much stronger team.
Yep.
With a much stronger defence. Not a goalkeeper per se, although... Who was the goalkeeper before? Ederson. He was a good goalkeeper, but Donnarumma's really first class. But the rest of it is very shaky. And even though they're in the final, we should be sort of positive about that, and it should be a great game, blah, blah, blah. I don't think... Whilst there's been some murmurings this week about the City spend, the City squad, and he's sort of chipped in a little bit, whilst I think there is something in that, I think it's the fact that he looks down to North London and he looks at what they have done. And I think that's what sort of frustrates him. That's because he knows, I think deep down, barring a disaster, that they have, I'm not saying they have the best team in Europe, but you could argue they have the best squad in Europe. Arsenal, that is. And he knows that's the team that he's gone up against. Previously, it was Liverpool who took the title off them. Arsenal have been in the hunt with them in the last 2 or 3 years, but they weren't quite strong enough. This year they are, and I think as much as he looks at his team and thinks, yeah, I've got some youngsters there, and obviously Diaz is out injured, and Gvardiol's out injured, and Akanji's been out he's away on loan, and all these things, that will frustrate him, some of the decisions. But I do think the one that probably frustrates him the most is the business that Arsenal have done and the position that they find themselves in, which is way, way stronger to go all the way in all these competitions than Manchester City.
Of course, it's no coincidence that Manchester City's poor run of form has coincided with the fact that Erling Haaland's on his worst run probably of his career. When you take a look at his numbers, especially when you compare him to the start of the season where he came flying out the block, obviously. 25 goals in his opening 23 games, 2 goals in his last 12.
Yeah, but one second here, before we go to all the guys. What have we just walked into today?
What are you talking about?
Well, I know I just went on a little bit about Arsenal squad, and that is true, but they've just got to a cup final.
Yep. Yeah, they have, and and that's it. We've mentioned that, and now I want to talk about other things.
I know.
What do you want me to do? Dance on the table? Do some juggling to celebrate?
No, thank you. No, thank you.
I think there is time to dance on their grave.
Well, I'm not dancing on their grave. We're celebrating they're through to the final.
Right.
I'm
now going to talk about Erling Haaland, who was on the bench today.
Yes.
Came on, had a great chance, and it was a great save.
Yes.
And I'm a little confused where we're going here.
Obviously, we have a World Cup also waiting for him with his Norway team, which is hasn't been qualified for a long time for a World Cup. I think, there might be, as I said before, the overall performance, when you choose the bad moments, bad periods, maybe now is a good time to choose that period right now, in January, February. But when it's crunch time, Erling Haaland will be there and he will score the goals, and maybe already in the Carabao final against Arsenal, he will be on the score sheet. But I'm not worried about him, because he's a personality, he's a professional that when he goes through tough moments, he knows what to do. He goes back to the training field and he works his butt off. That's what he's going to do, and he will come out even stronger, as usual.
Well, he's the least of their problems, isn't he?
We're not going to talk about the full-backs again. I was just moving.
No, I know what you're saying. By the way, is Frank's mic broken?
I just don't want to go to Frank at the moment. I've got you interrupting enough. I don't need him involved.
But you're right. He's gone off the boil slightly by his standard. And I'm not going to go on about the fullbacks and the other positions, but he is. When Guardiola puts a sheet down of problems in front of him, what he needs to solve, Erling Haaland is not one of them.
He is. Surely he is.
What?
A problem.
Erling Haaland's not a problem.
Of course he's a problem.
Don't be so stupid.
They would have won against Spurs if he scored. Is that not a problem?
No, they would have won against Spurs if decisions had gone their way.
But he's got to take his chances, which he hasn't been doing, and that has affected their Leeds plays, and therefore Haaland is a talking point. It is a problem.
Well,
fullbacks are a problem, midfield a problem, yes, but also my striker isn't scoring chances. He's not getting many, but he's not scoring the chances that he used to.
And you can't. Well, but my point is that will be short-lived. He's too good a player, and he's proven to be too good a player, and I don't think he gives a stuff if this show or any newspaper or any journalist asks him about his goal-scoring drought, if we want to call it that, because next game he'll just go out there, batter a couple of defenders around and score.
But he hasn't done that. That's the issue, isn't it?
Well, he's done it over his career and he's proven he'll come back. The problem is, when he's not doing it, the rest of the team is not strong enough. And when you have a striker, and I'm sure Jurgen's gone through this, when you have a striker that's having a bit of a dry patch, you need the rest of the team to chip in and do their job. And that is the issue at City. They are too reliant on these guys up front to bash in 3 or 4 goals every game. I get it, he's not quite as sharp as he was. My point is, that will not last. Right. That won't last. Trust me, I don't know, it might be this weekend, it might be next week, whenever it was, but he's the least of the problems when Pep Guardiola is having a sleepless night.
Frank, welcome to the show. Did you want to say something, or should we move on?
No, I just say go home. I'm already in, so that's fine. But no, I'm going to say something. You know what? I'm a little bit with Craig in the way that it's true that the guy has been nicknamed a cyborg because he doesn't seem to be human, scoring goals after goals, and suddenly because he doesn't, we have a problem. No, the problem is elsewhere, for sure, or the position. But it's true that when you see him, like we saw the highlight where he doesn't score that goal against Spurs, you can wonder what's going wrong. But he's been so good for like 6 months with Manchester City and Norway that he's allowed to have some rest a little bit, I would say, or so down moment, and he's going to be back. He has a World Cup, as Jurgen said. He's going to finish the Champions League as well and the Premier League, and he's going to be back very soon. It's true that you need him at a crucial moment, but you always need him. That's the main concern that they have. That it seems to be that if he's not good, City is not able to win. That's the main concern that Pep Guardiola has, I think.
So.